London has been ravaged by 2 days of violence and looting. More than 100 people have now been arrested and a further 9 police officers are injured. But the situation is about to get even worse.
We had enough police officers at the time, particularly Enfield. I felt we had enough officers. Later on the Monday, I didn't.
It just felt strange that something which happened in Tottenham was suddenly echoing around the city. And I don't think anyone could have forecast that.
The public is growing increasingly frustrated at politicians missing in action.
We had the Tory Prime Minister, David Cameron, away on his holidays. We had the Tory Mayor of London, Boris Johnson, away on his holidays as well. Everyone was away who had the authority to deal with the crisis on our streets.
We were deployed early afternoon. I'd worked Hackney as a sergeant and I knew it'd be different there. I knew it'd be more intense, more dislike of the police.
Hackney we used to call it the trenches because there was no opportunities in Hackney. Nobody had a great relationship with the police. No one had a nice thing to say about the police. These are the people that are supposed to look after us, keep us safe, and keep us secure. And we didn't feel like that.
3 miles from the first night's rioting in Tottenham, tension is growing in Hackney.
I looked out my window, I'm seeing loads of people. The streets filled up really quickly.
How's it going, man? It was a very different atmosphere that day to what I'd seen previously. There was more anger. If anything, day 3 was more about Mark Duggan.
The police have too much power and they're using that power. My man didn't pull out no gun, no nothing. They shot him for no reason.
Have you got anything to do with what's going on down there?
No, mate, no. I'm joining this because basically what they're doing is wrong.
We just knew that Mark was dead. You know what I mean? And that was just another brother from the ends dead by the police. People were just saying that, listen, this could really happen to one of us.
Take my picture in front of them, yeah. Find the fence, all the fence, let me, every man take my picture. Man's from Hackney.
You could cut the tension with a knife, like you can really tell that something's happening today. My daughter's mum was like, please don't get involved. Because at the time, I was a part of gang culture. I didn't actually leave the house to go and join the riots. My daughter needed some Actimel. That's why I actually left my house. It didn't kick off for a little while, and then the police got closer. And people started to throw missiles, and I got involved.
They were breaking police cars and smashing in things that weren't going to net them any kind of profit. They were just angry. Once they'd started wheeling out the big cops in the body armour and the helmets, it's like, if you see police like that are ready for a fight, then the chances are a fight's going to start, and it did.
The police have got a duty of care. You turn up in your beat helmet and your jacket, and there's people throwing bricks and bottles at you. which they have been already by then, you're not looking after your officers, and they've got a right to be protected. They've got a right to go home uninjured.
It was frantic, yeah, really quickly as well. People with 4 or 5 bottles around their waist, people with sticks, people with petrol bombs. I've launched a few bottles at the police. It didn't hit anyone at the time, but yeah, I launched a few bottles.
Saw huge crowds of young people rioting around central Hackney. It was very clear at that point that things were going to detonate in a very, very big way.
You do get a sense of whether they're after you or property. And certainly in Hackney, the violence was geared and aimed towards us as police officers.
There was a lot of smoke in the air, a lot of fuel in the air, cars blowing up. Just so much noise. I don't know where so many car alarms going off, police shouting, their boots on the ground, their shields clanging together.
That was intense for a long time. It's like very large hailstones constantly thudding down in and around you. We took a few injuries. One of my female officers was injured. The ambulance took off with her, come screeching to a halt, and she jumped back out the ambulance and rejoined us. That was the dedication of the officers there. They didn't want to leave their team. There's a picture of me and her leaving the front line to the ambulance.
The intention was never to hurt anyone, because yes, you're the police, but at the end of the day, you're still a human being.
They may have been at the end of their tether. There may be all kinds of social reasons. When you throw a solid object and it hits someone, it's going to hurt them. So I don't buy into that at all. But then, you know, I was a police officer.
People really didn't care no more. It felt like something was going to change. It felt like we was going to be a part of history, you know?
By 6 o'clock, the Mayor Boris Johnson announces he will return early from holiday, and more violence is erupting across the capital. Cars are set alight in Lewisham in South London. Homes are torched in Deptford in the east. Rioters are using social media and messaging services to spread the word. Londoners are terrified their businesses and homes will be burned to a cinder.
We went to work as normal on the Monday, but it felt different. It felt very tense. For some reason, we could just feel something in the air. So we just started to pack up what we could pack in our small car. We're going to close because ultimately, you know, being alive is the most important thing. Whatever happens is going to happen. It's a shop and they'll take what they want to take.
A lot of people, including me, got very, very scared because you could see that these young marauding youths were out of control. They clearly felt that they could get away with anything, and there was a really strong feeling of fear, a really strong feeling of lawlessness.
I couldn't sleep. We couldn't sleep. We just sat there watching London burn. We saw what was happening on Rye Lane, which is further up the road in Peckham, and one shop was burning. But, well, if it's up there in Rye Lane, which is just 5 minutes walk from our shop, then maybe it's going to happen to your shop. It was literally the longest evening of our lives.
As night falls, emergency services are stretched to breaking point. Unrest is spreading to the suburbs, but anarchy is about to grip the rest of England too.
whatever you thought about what was happening, it was so unsettling. It just felt like a total descent into the complete collapse of any stability in the country.
By early evening, disturbances have spread to virtually every London borough. Fires in many of the capital suburbs are burning out of control. Now into the third day of unrest, rioters begin targeting places nobody expected.
I remember being told by my editor, we want you to go to Croydon. My initial thought was like, why Croydon? Nothing's going to happen in Croydon. But I got that wrong, I guess.
I was a sergeant in the transport police. I'm just sort of mentally closing down, ready to go home, and the computer was saying BlackBerry Messenger is predicting there's going to be a riot now in Croydon. So I thought, well, be ashamed to miss out on that. Clearly going to be short of police officers. I'll make my way there.
Croydon, a commuter belt home to nearly 400,000 people, is now a hotspot. Shocking footage shows the moment a moped was ripped out of the hands of its driver.
They outnumbered us considerably. Early on, some sort of a stolen car came racing up the road. It was driven very, very purposely at us. This is the crowd making a statement. We're coming for you.
A mob with an appetite for destruction is about to lay waste to a treasured family business. The footage would become the iconic symbol of the devastation of the London riots.
The company has been in existence since 1867. There's been 5 generations of the company. The neighbour came round and said, I think Trevor had better go down to the shop. There seems to be something going on. The shop had been lit. And that's when you realise that was the end of the shop. Spectacular is not the word, because it's just total destruction. The cracking and the banging as the steel structures get too hot and then let walls collapse inside, and seeing 5 generations of the business just disappear in front of your eyes. I just remember it feeling totally empty, totally lost, and thinking, what do you do now?
When we arrived into Croydon, the first thing you saw was the furniture store completely alight, and you could feel the heat on your face just because the flames were just so high.
My dad didn't know about it. He'd been out on his wedding anniversary. He's come home, turned the telly on, and the first thing he sees on the telly is his life's work going up in flames. He was in tears on the phone. Yeah, it's horrible, horrible, horrible to hear him like that.
As the Reeves furniture store blazed, rioters are looting local shops. Reporter Rags Martel is following the action.
We heard this shop being smashed into. A group of policemen stood and watched. We saw one newsagent, and we got there as it was happening. How do you feel looking at the damage in your shop?
Obviously not happy.
It was heartbreaking to see an owner who'd worked very hard to build a business and just seeing it all completely destroyed.
I don't know why people, oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't know why people do this.
A lot of people say this is all down to austerity. I'm not sure I really agree with that. What a lot of people, including me, don't understand is where the political message is and the justice message is about looting shops. Not just the big chain stores, the JD Sports, the Currys, the big phone stores, but also just local businesses.
Why are you stealing everything?
This was about a lot of angry young people who were out to get what they could.
Late into the night, the situation for journalists out on the streets is becoming ever more dangerous.
Every shop's bust up.
We went to, I think it was down London Road in Croydon, and there were just lots of people trying to ransack cash machines. We were driving very slowly and we got spotted and immediately became a target. And I could almost see it in slow motion. They started hurling bottles at us. And that's when I said, step on it. A bottle smashed into the back of the car.
Where do you want to go? Left? Two left there or right?
We spoke to some of the people who were on the streets that night. They were disaffected and against the establishment, very much against the police.
The worst gangs that you could get have reunited all together, saying forget our troubles, now we're going for the police.
There were different rival gangs in Croydon, but they told me, no, tonight we're all together.
This is just started. This is just proven to the police. This is minor stuff. This is just showing what they can do.
Things were completely out of control. It was spreading very quickly across London, across the different boroughs and all sides of the capital city. The police simply were overwhelmed.
Rioting is now reaching other more affluent areas.
All the radio traffic on my radio was completely taken up with Clapham Junction. Clapham Junction station had been completely surrounded by a hostile crowd. The officers in Clapham Junction were quite literally screaming for assistance. They were screaming. But they were under phenomenal pressure and they were being attacked with bottles and bricks. Chaos is happening everywhere.
Fires are burning out of control in several areas. There's been widespread looting and running skirmishes with riot police. The Home Secretary has described the violence as sheer criminality. And tonight the Prime Minister is returning home from holiday to deal with the growing chaos.
The battle for control is also spreading to other cities across England.
It was surprising then you suddenly hear it spreading beyond London to the rest of the country. It felt like, what the hell's going on?
I don't think the vast majority of people writing knew anything about Mark Duggan. I think what they did have was a sense of contempt for the police. I think they had a sense of hopelessness and thought, what have we got to lose?
The country is in chaos, and people start to ask when and how it would ever end. The next day, the country wakes up to destruction and devastation. Business owners across the capital assess the damage.
That place was full of furniture, and there was just nothing left, just the bricks, just staggering. But all the staff turned up the next day. I got a great picture. There's the hulk of the building in the background, and there's our van driving off delivering furniture. We happened to load it the night before. I just thought that was good, sort of, yeah, up yours. Not going to beat us.
Before we even get to our shop, I can see our mannequins broken into bits on the road, strewn across the floor, and I'm like, our door is wide open, our glass has been smashed. I started kind of filming. It was literally gutted. A shop that had been full and celebratory, and it was just to shreds overnight. It lives in memory as one of the worst days of our lives.
You're a bit too late!
After 3 nights of rioting, politicians returning from holiday need to urgently tackle the crisis.
I think there was very much a sense of let's take back control and see who's in charge.
To those people who are responsible for this wrongdoing and criminality, you will feel the full force of the law.
The state was really flexing its muscle and saying, justice will be done, we will get you all.
And if you are old enough to commit these crimes, you are old enough to face the punishments.
There was so much criticism of this. The government, the London mayor, the police of failing to take action and allowing that disorder on our streets. All they could do after the fact was to make sure that the perpetrators of that worst violence and the looting were actually given severe punishments. This was about being tough after the act.
By mid-afternoon, the Met Police have arrested more than 500 rioters.
When David Cameron came out with the statement that these guys need to be locked up, these guys are violent criminals, I thought that just created more tension. It created more of a divide that was never going to bring people to the table and for this to stop immediately.
I know there are questions about the police response and about police numbers, and we are certainly, I understand that, and we are certainly...
Love him or hate him, you've got to doff your cap. It's a huge morale boost for the shopkeepers. Huge morale boost. The mayor's turned out, he's doing his bit.
Obviously, we're doing our best to increase the numbers of police.
On a job, it's on a job.
And make sure it never happens again.
A lot of people didn't see Boris Johnson as someone who represented them. So for him to blatantly turn up with a broom, I think people just felt utter contempt for him amongst many of those communities, to be honest.
We kind of thought it's going to happen again, where's the next Croydon, where's the next Tottenham? And I think the government and the Mayor of London had prepared for it. There was a kind of show of strength.
The Prime Minister promises there will be 16,000 police officers on call that night in London, 10,000 more than the previous evening. All leave within the Met Police is cancelled.
I said, I don't care what it costs, but disorder in London will stop today. And there were police officers from all over the country brought into the capital. The Lions were back in charge again, no doubt about it.
The police keep violence in London largely at bay. But rioting would escalate across the country and lead to tragic consequences.
I'd watched the pictures on TV where the big warehouse with the furniture store had burned down. The atmosphere was tense. Everybody was afraid. And I'd spoken to someone and said to them, these riots, the way they're escalating, until someone is killed, they're not going to stop. And lo and behold, I had no idea that it would be my son that I would lose.